The story is from USA Today's Jeff Zilgett, who reports that LeBron James is frustrated and concerned about the team's future. Now, they've added Jose Calderon. They've added Jeff Green. Those are the two additions to the Cavaliers roster, which, by these reports, leaves LeBron wanting more. Now, obviously, a lot of it comes down to the fact that they didn't get Paul George in the Paul George sweepstakes. Chris Broussard from Fox Sports, who joins Colin, is on the Undisputed. You hear him on Fox Sports Radio, told me yesterday, hey, look, they wanted to make that deal, move Kevin Love for Paul George, but the Indiana Pacers general manager, Kevin Pritchard, went ghost on them, wouldn't make the deal. So sometimes you want to do a deal, and sometimes you feel like there's a fair trade, but the other team doesn't feel that way. But it's interesting to me, or it's fascinating to me, on what LeBron's doing here. And I think that one of the things I think Skip Bayless does a really good job of is, at least on many levels, holding LeBron James accountable, not just for his play, but for his words. If you want to be considered the greatest player of all time, there's a lot that comes with that. And it's interesting because with LeBron fans, they want to admit the good, but they don't want to admit the not so good. They'll tell you about the wins in the finals. They'll tell you about getting a team, when his first Cleveland team that went to the finals, what a miraculous achievement that was. And yet they don't admit that his teams haven't been able to close the deal, or that LeBron has handpicked many of his cohorts on these teams since he left Cleveland. In Miami, where they won 2 of 4 championships. In Cleveland, where they've won 1 of 3 championships. Let's not just mention the finals. Let's mention the fact that he hasn't closed the deal. And I think there's a lack of any sort of accountability with LeBron. I will admit, he's the second best basketball player in terms of all-around game that I've seen in my lifetime. On the other hand, LeBron James is clearly painting a picture of what life is like in Cleveland, and he's setting the narrative as such to which, if in fact, or when he leaves at the end of next season, he can throw his hands up in the air and say, look, I did everything I could, but management did not put the pieces around me to compete. Keep in mind that this year, the Cleveland Cavaliers will be in the luxury tax to the tune of $24 million. Remember, that's $24 million they're paying for nothing. That's in addition to all of their salaries. Right? So they have gone above and beyond. Last year, again, and I know that they do some creative math with NBA teams. Last year, when they won the championship, it's reported the Cavs lost $40 million because of the luxury tax and because of salaries that they didn't actually make up. Now, people will tell you that that's bubkiss, that NBA teams make it up on the value of the team. And that's true in Cleveland as long as LeBron's on the team. So the team is incredibly valuable with LeBron James, but in order to have LeBron James on the team, you have to lose money. And then the second LeBron James leaves, the value of the NBA franchise completely collapses, even though you can keep your books in order. It's kind of a catch-22. But if you don't believe that LeBron lacks any sort of personal accountability for wins and losses, just listen to what he said. Remember, this is during the NBA Finals, when they were struggling early in the series, and people wanted to give him the easy off-ramp and say, like, look, LeBron, are you tired? Here was his response.
Are we tired?
I don't know. People's
that
to me when, that's the question I've been answering
I feel
radio
great.
shows.
I'm averaging a triple-double in the finals. I'm pretty good, I would think.
Yeah, that's the, instead of doing the it's not you, it's me, he's doing the it's not me, it's all of them. I'm great. I average a triple-double. This ain't a me problem. This is a them problem. Here was LeBron after the Cavs were eliminated by the Warriors as to what the front office needs to do.
I'm not the GM of the team, and I'm not in the front office, but I know our front office is going to continue to try to put our ball club, put our franchise in position where we compete for a championship year in and year out.
He's not the general manager, okay? But LeBron James' agent represents Tristan Thompson, who's making $17 million next year. J.R. Smith, who, remember, at the end of last year was an unrestricted free agent, and LeBron pushed the Cavs to sign him, and David Griffin signed him to a deal that'll paid him 13 and change this year, 14 and change next year, 15 and change the year after that. Like, he's not the general manager, but he has pushed the general manager and the owner to spend on his guys, on his team, and they have responded in kind, and that's why they're in luxury tax hell. And people, if you want to make the Kevin Love trade, we got you over a barrel because we know you need to add assets because your best asset is screaming for you to do so. Like, look, I'm not saying that all the front office problems, that Dan Gilbert wanting to step in and fire David Griffin, that's all on LeBron James. But this idea that none of this is his doing is simply a lie. And it's LeBron James smartly creating this narrative of, I have given and done for Cleveland all I can do. And when I leave at the end of next year, it's not me, it's all of them. Because that's how LeBron James rolls. It's not me, it's all of them. And that, frankly, isn't what the greatest player on earth is supposed to do. On some level, great leadership is about pointing in even when it's not your fault. I mean, that's what every great coach will tell you. They'll tell you if their best player is accountable, if their best player accepts the failures of others, even if the best coaches will come out afterwards and say, that was on me. Even if it wasn't. You know, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have substituted there. I shouldn't have. You know that the player screwed up. The player knows that the player screwed up. But when you take away some of that onus from the player, you end up helping him battle back from it or her battle back from it. And LeBron James putting so much of the blame on everybody else when his agent, his pushing has caused their salaries to be bloated, to me is not befitting of somebody who we consider one of the greats of all time, especially somebody who, like, look, if he really understood how respected he is in the NBA, couldn't he have gone to J.R. Smith and say, J.R., we got you off the scrap heap in New York. Nobody wanted you in the league. I remember J.R. Smith was out of the league before New York. He was in China. He wasn't making much money. He comes back. He was failing in New York because he went out every night. And he comes to Cleveland, and they resuscitate his career, to which he's kind of a star role player. And last year, he played a big part, 2 years ago, a big part of them winning a championship. You mean to tell me LeBron James couldn't have gone to him and said, look, you're always going to be good for me. You'll always have a job with me. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to take less money. But instead, he pushed for, he's worth every penny. They end up spending too much on J.R. Smith. That's not good leadership. Same thing with Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson got his deal after he played well when they lost in 6 games in the NBA Finals. You mean to tell me that LeBron James, who's represented by Rich Paul, who's the best friend of LeBron, you mean to tell me that he couldn't have sat in a room and said, listen, Tristan, before I got here, you were a flop as an NBA player, okay? You were overdrafted, you were unskilled, and you've become a star role player. I need you to make a couple $1 million less. Even LeBron James, who is worth every penny that he has paid, that he has been paid, took every penny that he was owed. And then you look to this offseason. Remember when Steph Curry signed his new contract? He was the one who came out and said, hey, Steph Curry is worth twice as much as that. Why do we have this deal? Why do we have a salary cap? Do you know who is on the executive committee for the NBA PA? LeBron James is a vice president of the NBA PA. LeBron James agreed to the deal. There is no more powerful voice in the sport, maybe in the history of the sport, than LeBron James. And he could have said, listen, we had a deep discussion about it. Remember, we have our rank and file members who are worried about the bottom end of the salaries and at the top end of the salaries, and this is the best deal we could come up with. But that's not what LeBron said. LeBron simply went on to Twitter on a Twitter rant about how the salary cap is unfair. That's a salary cap that he not only agreed to, but he was part of the negotiation process with, and he's the most powerful member of the NBA PA. This is who LeBron James is. He is an incredible basketball player, but he has never been held to any sort of level of accountability, nor does he hold it to himself.